You tell us that story, and
I'll try to do it briefly.
Yeah, because more importantly, I want to get to what it says about him. But
thank you, but that's
story.
why I included it. I was at a formal dinner, and because of protocol, I was representing the United States, so I was sitting next to President Putin, and we were talking. I told him I had just recently visited the huge memorial to the victims of the siege of Leningrad, now again St. Petersburg, and how moved I was by what I had seen and learned. And he said, well, you know, it was a terrible experience for everyone. My parents lived through it. In fact, my father had been on the front, and he came home to just rest up and to try to recover before he went back. And as he was coming down the street where our apartment was, he saw a huge pile of bodies, and men were loading those bodies into a cart to take them away. And he looked at the pile, and he saw this shoe, this leg that he thought was his wife's, and he demanded that they uncover her from under the pile of bodies. And he saw her, and he went to pick her up, and they told him, no, this woman is dead. And he said, that's my wife, I don't believe she's dead. And he argued back and forth until finally I think they probably just said, take her. He picked up his wife out of this pile of bodies, carries her up the stairs into their apartment, nurses her back to health. Putin is born some years later. As soon as the dinner was over, I had a meeting with my team, including our very knowledgeable ambassador at that time, Mike McFall, expert in Russia. I told him the story. I said, Mike, have you ever heard that? He goes, no, I've never heard that. I have since told it to other people. They have never heard it. If it's true, which of course he was very convincing in the telling, think of what that means. Think of what that tells you, not just about his personal experience, but the experience of Russia, of Russians alive today, what they went through from, you know, Stalin and purges to World War II and sieges and the tens of millions of people who were lost in that period of time, and then finally the collapse of the Soviet Union. If it isn't true, think about what that mythology tells you about his thinking, his conviction about what it means to be Russian and the kind of country that Russia should be.
What's his end game? You've seen him up close. You've worked with him. You've argued with him.
I have.
What's his end game?
He wants to restore Russian greatness, and that includes a sphere of influence from Central Asia through Eastern Europe, not reconstituting the Soviet Union so much as influencing and even intimidating the countries that are on that periphery so that they will follow Russia's lead. They use gas as a weapon, they use tariffs as a weapon, and then we've recently seen they use weapons as they invaded and annexed Crimea.
So what's the danger to the West?
The danger is several-fold. First of all, because I think he's kind of ad-libbing it, making it as he goes. I mean,
you really believe that?
I do. I mean, he has the overall vision, as I've just described it, about what he wants to see, but he's looking for opportunities. He's looking for weaknesses. He's looking for the potential to move forward on his vision. Remember, he really called the shots in the invasion of Georgia in 2008. And the annexation of 2 parts of Georgia.
And basically got away with it from the West.
Basically got away with it.
Will he get away with Crimea as he got away with Georgia?
I think right now it's too soon to tell, because there is still a very active effort by Putin and either Russian military or sympathizers to continue to move into eastern Ukraine. But the final thing I would just throw in here is it's not just invading, annexing countries. He wants to create something called the Eurasian Union to compete with the European Union, and he's got Kazakhstan and Belarus, and he expected to add Ukraine to it. He is heavily influencing through money, through oligarchs and others, elections in Eastern and Central Europe, creating control over media outlets. He's in it for the long game, and the West, I believe, has to be in it for the long game. I mean, we fought wars.
But our attention span seems to drift quickly. Now it's Iraq.
Well, that's
kind of off Ukraine.
That's one of the reasons I wrote this book, because we've got to be able to do more than one thing at a time, and it's not just focusing on the headlines. Iraq is now in the headlines, but the trend lines. What does a kind of resurgent Russian game plan mean for Europe? We know that unless Europe diversifies its energy supplies, they're going to remain dependent on Russian gas. That's not good for them. It's also not good for, Canada and the U.S.
Speaking of energy, Canada and the U.S., when we come back, pipeline.